Welcome to Rise Up in Business, the law podcast for small business owners. I'm your host, Tracy Myler-Crane. I'm a business lawyer, an entrepreneur, and very much a realist. Rise Up in Business is designed to share with small business owners important legal information and some clever tips and tricks in short and sharp episodes, no legal jargon. With this podcast, I want to empower small business owners to rise up and take control in their business. I'll be here every Wednesday to tell you what you need to know without sending you to sleep. Let's get into today's episode. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Rise Up in Business podcast. I'm so happy to have you join me for episode 30 of the podcast. Today I'm going to talk about something that pops up a lot lately, and that is late payments of invoices and whether or not to commence legal proceedings. So as you know, if you've been following me for a while, the first part of my legal career, in fact the first 12 years, was spent in litigation and dispute resolution. So that means acting for clients caught up in court proceedings, litigation, and dispute resolution, so mediations, arbitrations, all those types of things. And for me, it was a fabulous start to my legal career. It was very exciting and exhilarating and intense and high pressure and all of those things that, you know, lots of law students find very appealing leaving law school, and certainly I did, and I enjoyed it. But later on, as paths change and priorities change, I decided that that life was no longer for me, and here I am doing this, which is helping business owners avoid that. But what it taught me, and what I saw time and time again, was litigation ought to be avoided at all costs, if at all possible. And I don't say that lightly. So time and time again, I have seen what can go wrong. And in fact, what does go wrong so often. Businesses destroyed, livelihoods destroyed, marriages end, wedges in family relationships, business relationships, friendships, all of it. Bankruptcies, insolvencies, I've seen it all. Litigation is not for the faint-hearted. So when we're talking to small business owners and we're talking about late payments and invoices, and the question arises often, should I commence legal proceedings? It is no simple answer. And commencing legal proceedings and suing someone for the fees that they owe you is not a simple fix, and it's not an easy answer. That's why I wanted to spend today's episode on this topic, to just talk through my reasoning and explain what I mean when I say it ought to be avoided at all costs. Legal proceedings are not a quick fix. It's not a quick answer, and it's not a quick process. So generally speaking, in a civil procedure, which is a non-criminal procedure, and suing someone for payment of fees is not criminal, it's civil. Generally speaking, when you commence an application in a court or a tribunal for non-payment of an invoice, you get into the system and then you need to jump through all the hoops that are required to get to a date where you have the final hearing, which is your day in court. That can take many, many months, if not years, depending on the nature of the invoice, the reasoning for not paying, so ultimately the nature of the dispute. So obviously there's a dispute if someone hasn't paid you, there's a reason why they haven't paid you. That all gets aired in court. It's not a quick process. It's also a high-risk process because if two parties engage in litigation, court proceedings, and they get to the end, and there is a final hearing and a judge or a magistrate makes a decision, then the party who did not win has the potential to face what we call a costs order, where they need to pay a significant sum of money to the other party towards their legal costs. That's a risk. And if the parties are paying their own lawyers along the way, then that risk increases. This becomes really important when we're looking at the reasoning why someone hasn't paid your invoice and how much the invoice is. So my general rule of thumb is that parties ought to not commence legal proceedings unless we're talking at least $250,000 in dispute. Anything less than that, and I just don't think that it's worth it because the risk and the time involved and the stress and the pressure and the impact that it has on businesses and livelihoods, it's significant. Of course, there are circumstances where it is appropriate to commence a legal proceeding, but I'm talking generally, and that's the view I formed after many years of acting for clients in those environments. There is no point commencing proceedings for a $20,000 invoice if you're going to spend $50,000 on your lawyer, and there's a potential that you won't win, and therefore a potential that you might need to pay out a hefty sum to the other party if you lose. It doesn't make commercial sense, it doesn't make business sense, it makes no sense. The other reason that I don't think people should commence legal proceedings relates to emotions. And it's always alarm bells to me when a client says, it's not about the money, it's about the principle. I've been wronged and I want my day in court. My job then is to inform the client and make sure the client is crystal clear on what's involved in the legal process, what the risks are, the time, and ultimately what they could end up forking out if they're not successful. So emotional reasons are no reason to commence a legal proceeding. They're all really good reasons to get legal advice, to jump on the phone to your business lawyer, or to be able to sit down and talk it through. But emotions, they're a good reason to not commence, in fact, because it's not an easy process. It's not for the faint-hearted. And if we make decisions based on emotion, we can end up regretting them later. Once you start legal proceedings, you can't just stop them. You can't just change your mind a few months down the track and say, oh gosh, I don't want to do this anymore, let's just withdraw and everyone walk away. It doesn't work like that. So there's all sorts of processes that you need to go through if you change your mind, and there's cost consequences. So you can change your mind, but it's going to cost you. My view is if you're dealing with late payments of your invoices, you need to look at other ways to recover your funds without resorting to legal proceedings. Legal proceedings should be a last resort, if ever. Those other options are your processes, proper communication, negotiation, and if the situation calls for it because of the issues involved, mediation. If you have properly tailored business terms in your business, then you will be able to navigate your way through dealing with late payments, if they even arise. The way we operate the majority of the time now in our businesses is that we're able to obtain deposits, funds in advance, progress payments. There is just no reason anymore why in your business you need to wait until you've completed the services before you issue your invoice. There's a better way. And when you're looking holistically at your business model and your business systems and processes, the way you issue your terms, your proposals, your invoices to your clients needs to be at the forefront of that consideration. It really is one of the most important things you can do, is have a properly prepared and a well-considered set of processes and systems for your business, which include properly tailored terms, and the way you issue them and the way you issue your proposals, your deposits, your progress payments, for example, needs to be consistent with your business and what you're offering, and minimize your risk that you're going to be caught in that position where you have some hefty invoices that are outstanding and need to be paid. So there I go again. Yes, prevention's better than cure, but we really don't need to get to the point where you're sitting down with your business lawyer saying, or your litigation lawyer saying, what do I do about these outstanding invoices? It does happen though, and I get that. Things happen, things fall through the cracks, and despite our best intentions, sometimes we get burnt and we do find ourselves in a situation where we do have some significant outstanding invoices and we need to deal with it. First thing to do always is look at your business terms to see what your rights are and what the party's obligations are. Sometimes it should be, in fact, certainly my clients have them, a dispute resolution clause. If there is a dispute in relation to anything to do with the business relationship, there's a process to go through. That's the dispute resolution clause. And often that dispute resolution clause will have obligations for the parties to attend mediation before embarking on legal proceedings anyway. That can be a very valuable process because it gives the parties an opportunity to explore the issues, reach a mutual understanding, and make an arrangement or an agreement to move forward, wholly to avoid legal proceedings, which, as you now know from listening to this episode, is something that I genuinely encourage, avoiding legal proceedings. If it is the case that you do find yourself in the unfortunate position where you do have some outstanding invoices that are significant and you don't have business terms, then we need to look at a way to resolve it so that you can get paid. At least get paid something. Something's better than nothing. And that's where we look at negotiation. You can bring your lawyer in to do that for you. Doesn't need to take all of your time and energy in your business. And we can look at options to either get the parties together, negotiate something, mediate something. We can do all of those things even without the business terms. It's not always perfect, but it is something. Approaching these types of scenarios commercially with a business focus rather than emotionally can make the world of difference. So that's my take on my view on legal proceedings and late payments, and why, in a nutshell, I think that legal proceedings really need to be avoided at all costs unless it's absolutely necessary. It really is a last resort. And yep, prevention is absolutely better than cure. So if you're listening to this and you don't have your business terms in place, take this as your little reminder that now is the time to prioritise those, because you don't want to be one of those people that needs to call their lawyer to say, gosh, I've got this ton of outstanding invoices or this significant outstanding invoice. It's having a real impact on my business. What am I going to do about it? Prevention's better than cure. Let's avoid it if we can. But if you do find yourself in that unfortunate position, then it's worth the call to put a strategy in place with your lawyer to work out how it is you're going to tackle it without having to resort to commencing legal proceedings. So I know there's a lot in there. I've tried my best to condense that just to add some value for you so you can really understand why legal proceedings ought to be treated as a very last resort and why there just really is so much value in prevention being better than cure in business. I hope that helps. If you have any questions or you want to talk through any more of what I've talked about, please don't hesitate to reach out. That's what I'm here for. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen, and I'll catch you next time. That's it for today's episode. Short and sharp, just like I promised. If you liked the episode, please be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes, and I would be most grateful if you would leave a review on Apple Podcasts. As always, remember to keep your business legals in order with my annual legal checklist. You can grab your free copy by heading over to my website, tmsolicitor.com.au/checklist. I'll catch you next week. Thanks so much for listening.